It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. Members, please sit according to the seating plan of the House Committee. If you want to speak, please press the button. This is the Chinese Valentine's Day and best wishes for the new year. Minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of November 2018 were circulated to members. So far, no proposed amendments have been received. So can we confirm the minutes of the meeting, please? Okay. Item 2, information paper issued since the last meeting. There is one paper issued. And that was raised by Mr. Eddie Chu and the administration's response to Mr. Eddie Chu's letter regarding his concerns over the implementation of and effectiveness of the measures taken by the Hong Kong Customs and Excise Department in law enforcement and the trade control of strategic commodities has been given to everyone. If Mr. Chu is here, do you have anything to say on this paper, Mr. Chu? Thank you, Chairman. I would like to make 2 points, and I hope that the panel can follow up asking the administration the questions. And in page 5, last paragraph of the response letter, it says that when the Customs and Excise Department spots any commodities which go against the sanctions of the United Nations coming into Hong Kong, the arrangement is that the import will not be allowed, and there are 2 ways of handling it, and then the ship is banned from entering into Hong Kong. If it involves a Hong Kong registered companies, the registration will be cancelled. In an earlier oral question, the administration mentioned about the deregistration of Hong Kong registered companies. So who is responsible for doing that? And second, does the government have the right to do that? Because the company hasn't broken the law yet. And what about the number? Well, they've given us figures for the year 2014 to 18. I would like to know how many companies Hong Kong companies have been deregistered. So that's the first part of my question, and I hope that the government can also respond on this point in relation to the UN sanctions order. How come the government is turning a blind eye? Well, it just drives the ship away, and that's the end of it. And why don't you allow them in and then prosecute them? How come that no one single case of the 99 cases has been taken to the court for prosecution? Is it because of the approach that I mentioned? So I hope that the government can explain further on this. All right. So does any other member have any question on the administration's response? Mr. Ronik Chan. Chairman, good afternoon. The government has sent us a 6-pager responding in detail Mr. Eddie G's question. And Mr. G is raising some new opinions just now. So I hope that the government can write in and respond in writing to Mr. Eddie G's request, and then we can enter the agenda proper. Mr. Wang Ting-Kwang, I've also read the administration's response letter. I find it very strange that Mr. G doesn't seem to understand. If the Customs and Excise Department hasn't conducted an investigation and then forbids any ship coming into Hong Kong, what do you mean? Well, a penalty can only be meted out or prosecution initiated only after the ship or the vessel has arrived or come into Hong Kong. So I really don't understand Mr. G's question. I hope that Mr. Chu can read again in detail the administration's response. Okay, Mr. Felix Chong. Thank you, Chairman. I have every confidence in the SARG government, including the Customs and Excise Department's law enforcement work. In the 18th and 90s, where we have the quota system, we saw that the Customs and Systems Department was very stringent in this inspection. It was well recognized by the rest of the world. And if you care to notice, in early December last year, the U.S. government sent some official to Hong Kong to have a meeting with the Hong Kong Customs and Excise Department's officials, and they try to understand how the Customs and Excise dealt with strategic commodities. The U.S. Consul General later issued a statement saying that Hong Kong had done a good job, and that goes to show that the U.S. State Department found that Hong Kong's inspection system was very satisfactory. And of course, if more resources could be plowed in, then more effective would the work be. So it can be seen that the Hong Kong C&E Department, in relation to sanctions against strategic commodities, has been doing good work, and has been held in high regard by the world. So I don't think there is any problem there. Mr. Eddie Chu raised some suggestions and asked for a response from the administration. So can the administration please respond to the points raised by Mr. Eddie Chu? And then after we've got the administration's response, then I will decide on the way forward. Any further views? If not, then we'll move on to the next item. Date of next meeting and items for discussion. The meeting in March will be held on the 19th of March, Tuesday. And this time, well, please note that the arrangement will be like this. This is a joint meeting of the CIP, the Economic Development Panel, the Financial Affairs Panel, and the ITPB, Information Technology and Broadcasting Panel. And the meeting time is from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. And we're going to discuss the outline development plan for the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area just promulgated. And that is item 1 on the list of outstanding issues. And then immediately after this joint panel, then CIP will resume our normal meeting from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. And we are going to discuss the proposed creation of directorate posts for the new Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau GBA Development Office. And that is item 2 in the list of outstanding items for discussion. So I would like to remind members that this is a staff establishment and financial proposal. And after today's meeting, the Secretariat will issue a notice on this joint panel meeting and also our regular March meeting. I would also like to remind members that on this Friday, and that is the 22nd of February, the 4 panel meetings that I just mentioned will hold a joint meeting from 2 to 2:30 p.m. and we're going to discuss the duty visit of joint panels to major cities in the Yangtze River Delta. So I hope that you can attend the meeting. Dr. N. Chang, Chairman, I would like to say something about follow-up issues for follow-up actions. Yes, you can please feel free to say whatever you want to say. I have 2 questions, Chairman. Number 1, for the minutes of the last meeting. Well, the minutes were for the meeting on the 20th of November. Now it's the end of February. So next time, can the minutes be circulated earlier, as soon as possible? Sometimes we try to look at what happened in the last meeting before we hold the next meeting. So I hope that we can, for the meeting this month, we can have the minutes of the meeting last month. Can we write a letter to the Secretary General to reflect our views on this? Is it because of there's a shortage of manpower, or is that there are, the process is too protracted, and it seems that the clerk takes a long time to finish to complete the minutes of meeting. We are talking about the minutes of a meeting held 3 months ago here. And then, Chairman?
Last month, Chairman, we had suggested that the administration could tell us about the Innovation and Technology Fund and the schemes and projects which have been subsidized. Let's say, for example, the number of projects which have been approved, the amount of subsidies, and so on. Also, we've also sponsored some companies, and since then, some of these companies have actually been wound up. So I wonder whether the administration could provide us with such information. To answer your first question, I'll talk to the clerk to see whether we can ensure that the minutes of meetings will not be circulated at too late a stage to members. So the Secretary will follow up on that. Secondly, regarding the request, the information that you are requesting for, the administration is following up on that as well. All right. When will that be available, Chairman? I think the administration will follow up on that. We'll ask them again. Could we ask them, how long they will take? If it's a month or 2 or 5, but at least we have some idea, so that we don't have to be kept waiting. All right. With that, we now move on to item 4, which is the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies and the World Trade Organization Parliamentarian Workshop on International Trade 2019. And that workshop will be held in Singapore from the 11th to the 13th of June 2019. I think in previous years the lecturer had also been invited. Since the topics covered in the workshop falls within the ambit of the CNI panel, as before, the invitation has now been extended to us. 2 members of the panel may be nominated to attend the meeting. The workshop will include, coverage about the works of the WTO, matters relating to the resolution of trade disputes, and also simultaneous interpretation service will be available at the conference. The relevant papers have already been circulated to members, so we now have to decide whether we should accept the invitation, and if so, should we also allow non-members of this, those who are not members of the panel to attend that seminar. And I will select 2 members to attend the workshop through the drawing of lots. Members of this panel will have priority to be nominated. Early on, the practice adopted by the security panel is that, well, they had a nomination for attendance to a meeting on the slavery system, the modern slavery project, and members of the security panel had priority to take part in the drawing of lots. So if there are fewer than 2 members of this panel interested, then they will have the priority, and then if there are more than 2 members interested, then we will first draw lots among ourselves, and there will not be any place for others members who are not our members. So the members of this panel will have the priority. Mr. Chung Papan, in the last few years, did we have any of our panel members attending this workshop as representative of the panel? In 2015, Mr. Sin Chung Kai attended the workshop. In 2017, Mr. Yu Chung Yim went. I think we should attend this workshop. Singapore is very active, proactive in signing, free trade agreements with different jurisdictions. Singapore being one of our competitors. I think we should go and try to learn about what they're doing and how they participate in affairs relating to international trade. All right, okay, there's no objection. We will then accept the invitation and we'll follow the arrangements which I outlined earlier. Item 5 now is the promotion of intellectual property trading. We'll now invite the officials to join us and members who would like to ask questions regarding this item, please press the button now.
多謝各位官員嘅蒞臨。今次出席會議嘅有商務及經濟發展局副局長陳百里博士，有知識產權處處長梁嘉麗女士，有商務及經濟發展局副秘書長潘偉榮先生，有商務及發展局首席助理。
And also, Miss Alice Choi, PAS, and also Mr. Gary Poon, Deputy Secretary. So, shall we first invite the administration to walk us through the paper? Thank you. Chairman and members, good afternoon. Government has been actively promoting the commercialization of IP and promoting Hong Kong as the international trading hub. We've adopted different measures to work closely with the stakeholders. In our paper, we've already reported the latest update of the work that we've done, and I'd like to highlight on 9 of the areas. First of all, the BIP Asia, and this is actually the flagship event which we organized together with the TDC. The workshop was held in December last year. More than 80 senior officials from the mainland and other countries came as speakers. More than 2,600 people attended. The next workshop forum will be held on the 5th and 6th of December 2019. We will continue to add new elements to the workshop to maintain its momentum and attractiveness so that the attendants can learn about the latest development in the area of IP trading. Hong Kong can also take this opportunity to further promote Hong Kong as the hub for IP trading. Other than PIP Asia, there are 2 important events, which is the Hong Kong International Licensing Show and the Asia Licensing Conference. Intellectual property trading can take place in different ways, and licensing is the most dynamic form of IP trading. The 17th Hong Kong International Licensing Show was held last month. The scale of this licensing show is the 2nd largest in the world and the largest in Asia. The 8th Asian Licensing Conference was also held at the same time, providing a platform for those in the licensing business to extend networks and to expand the room for collaboration. In order to promote IP trading, the TDC also provided, the Asia IP Exchange portal. The portal includes more than 28,000 tradable IP listings available. It's 12% an increase of 12% when compared with the figures 3 years ago. The TTC will continue to promote the portal and encourage user registration. Number 4, tax deductions for capital expenditure incurred for the purchase of IP rights, and the number has been increased from 5 to 8. The 3 new types of IP rights include integrated circuits, plant variety rights, and rights in performance. We're grateful to Len Chu for endorsing the amendment bill last year. Number 5, while encouraging IP trading, we also encourage the use of arbitration and mediation to resolve disputes over IP trading. And in this area, Hong Kong can provide such services. The DOJ in the arbitration amendment bill in 2017 proposed that resolution of IP trading disputes can be resolved through arbitration. Going forward, the IPD will, in conjunction with DOJ, continue to promote arbitration as a means to resolve disputes over IP trading. Number 6, support for SMEs. SMEs are pillars of our economy, and in promoting IP trading, we attach a lot of importance to providing support to SMEs, and they include providing consultation service and providing manpower resources and sharing of successful cases. The IPD and the Law Society, starting from December 2014, launched the free IP consultation service to help SMEs better understanding IP and also our strategy regarding the management of IPs. And the scheme has proven to be very popular. As at September last year, we had more than 300, interviews. Next, IP manager scheme. The IPD launched the IP manager scheme to help SMEs to build up their IP management capacity and boost competitiveness. Until the end of 2018, more than 860 SMEs joined the scheme, and more than 1,500 participants attended the IP manager training programs organized by the IPD. Regarding the sharing of successful cases, the IPD will from time to time produce programs regarding successful examples of IP trading. Other than these videos, the department will, through APIs, pamphlets, and so on, and also the internet portal and social media, to promote messages relating to IP trading. Number 7, in order to the IPD in 2017 conducted a survey regarding IP manpower, and the findings were announced in December last year. The findings confirm that the survey confirmed that the job level spreads and there is a market demand for the personnel involved. And also, we will be organizing dedicated workshops to help SMEs better understand, IP trading. IP trading involves different professions, and the government also attaches a lot of importance in working together with the professional associations. The IPD, together with the Law Society, published 2 booklets. They are the Intellectual Property Audit and Due Diligence, and also Intellectual Property Licensing in 2017. And finally, the resolution of or cooperation with other jurisdictions. The IPD had all along been working with other, IP regulation authorities in other jurisdictions through different platforms and joint efforts to promote IP trading and the commercialization of IPs.
係經合作。
Hong Kong is a member of the APEC IP Expert Group. In June 2018, IPD hosted, in collaboration with IP offices of Mexico and Korea, hosted a two-day workshop on promoting best practices in licensing for creative industries as an initiative of the APEC IP Expert Group for SMEs in APEC economies. This workshop is very much welcome and was attended by some 250 participants comprising SMEs, professional practitioners and government officials from various APEC economies. The IPD will continue to work closely with IP authorities on the mainland at different levels to promote IP trading under the auspices of the BNR initiative and Greater Bay Area. Chairman and members, the IP trading is booming, and we are seeing a lot more opportunities these days. Hong Kong is an important gateway between China and worldwide, and Hong Kong will play our role as a facilitator, and we will try to promote economic integration in the region, and we would work closely with the mainland authorities in taking forward BNR initiative and Greater Bay Area to create more opportunities for IP trading. We would also continue to work together with stakeholders to further consolidate Hong Kong's position as an IP trading hub. I and my team are willing to take questions from members. Thank you, Dr. Chen. First one, Mr. Felix Chung. Sorry, 5 minutes for you. Undersecretary talked about the promotion initiatives in the recent past in relation to IP trading. There are so many different meetings held in Hong Kong. We know that there is the Sino-US trade war looming, and one of the criticisms of the U.S. against the mainland is that IP protection was lacking in the mainland. I think that spells opportunities for Hong Kong. Hong Kong can actually gain from the China-US trade war in that particular area. Now, apart from the many activities mentioned by the Undersecretary, what else can the government do? Now, the Undersecretary talked about the BIP Asia Forum, and a number of participants from different countries participated. Some 2,000 people came. So how could Hong Kong benefit from that? Does it mean that the participants from these countries would like to get their IP registered in Hong Kong, or the technology products being registered in Hong Kong? So that's my first question. Dr. Chan, thank you for your question. For the activities that we organized, including BIP Asia Forum, we have arranged a number of matching activities. Say, for example, the BIP Asia Forum. Apart from that, we have this activity called IP Hatch Hong Kong launch. We would be making use of the existing patents of our R&D centers in relation to Internet of Things, healthcare, robotics, data analytics, etc. And we will make use of our existing patents and invite the startups to join in a competition to use such patents. And the competition participants, if they win, they are entitled to some short-term consultation free service for free, and they can also use our co-working spaces. So we'll be making use of our different advantages, including our professional services, professionals in IP trading, to be able to clinch more deals. Mr. Chong. 2 or 3 years ago at the LegCo, we discussed the Copyright Amendment Bill, but the bill fell through and the government withdrew the bill because of filibustering. And indeed, our law is lagging behind so much. We are just our law was was drawn up in the 1990s, you said that we are doing well in IP trading, but the laws are lagging behind. So when are you going to reintroduce a copyright amendment bill to the LegCo? Thank you, member, for your question. On IP laws, in the several panel meetings, we discussed the Marrakesh treaty in relation to people with print disabilities, PPDs. Now, in 2011 and 2014, we presented the Copyright Amendment Bill, and it was not passed because of resistance from the Council. So we didn't reach any consensus on the use of copyright. So in the past few years, we have talked to the sector's representatives, and right now, they have not asked for the government to reintroduce the Copyright Amendment Bill. But it doesn't mean that we will not continue enhancing our IP system for less contentious issues. For example, the Marrakesh Treaty and also the Metro Protocol, which was introduced to the LegCo last month. We will keep on working on those fronts. So we start with the less contentious issues, and we will take it from there and try to perfect our IP protection system. Mr. Felix Chung, of course, I understand. I was there when the Copyright Amendment Bill was debated and and I saw for myself how it failed. The Undersecretary said that they've talked to the stakeholders, none of whom has asked for the government to reintroduce the bill. Well, the stakeholders might not mention it, but the world is changing, keeps changing all the time. This is an outdated piece of legislation, and it cannot cope with the changes in the technology, and that means we cannot align ourselves with the international community. And I hope that you can reintroduce the Copyright Amendment Bill, give us a new bill. Now, you mentioned yourself, you failed in 2011 and in 2014. How come that you have not learned from your experience and do a better job? That's impossible. Dr. Bernard Chan, thank you, member, for your follow-up question. In the past few years, we have done a lot of work. We have tried to crack down on copyright infringement online, and the Customs and Excise Department keeps on doing the enforcement work. And towards the end of 2017, we've successfully prosecuted a case involving illegal TV box. And we meted out the heaviest sentence in that case, so that could serve as a deterrent. And we have been liaising closely with the sector also. We have come up with a list of infringement activities, and also we circulated the list to various government departments and asking the government departments not to take out advertisements on these online platforms and so on. And the sector has welcomed our work, and we will continue to work closely with the sector to try to forge consensus. You haven't answered Mr. Felix Chung's questions. As I said in the beginning, different stakeholders have different views. It's not easy to come to a consensus. We will do our best to work in that direction. Even if the government would like to do this, we must have the right conditions to take things forward. So, again, we will continue with our work. Mr. Chung, any follow-up question? On the work of IP, well, Hong Kong is ranked quite high worldwide. That goes to show that Hong Kong has been doing good work, and our work has been recognized worldwide. Now, I have several questions. You said that you try to commercialize IP and you are taking forward work in that regard. Has there been any progress in the past few years? Do you have any data to show that we've done well? And then about infringement of IP rights. We've been doing a good job, but then there has been infringement of IP rights. So in the past few years, what is the trend? Is it are the number of cases on the rise or on the decline? If it is to the former, what more work can we do to still keep our reputation as a place where we are doing well in protecting IP. Now we talk about patent, design, and so on when we talk about IP rights. And in relation to IP trading, it talks about transactions of IP rights, and that can take many different forms, licensing, and so on. Now in the process, apart from the buyers and the sellers, intermediary services are also involved, and there are also cross-sector collaboration initiatives. Now, have we been effective in promoting IP trading? Well, in terms of IP trading, we do have some figures to share with you. In terms of using the export of IP trading, we have in 2007 $2.8 billion, and in 2017 $5.6 billion. Import from 2007 to 2011 is from $11.7 billion to $12 billion. Now, so that covers the licensing of Hong Kong companies and overseas companies. But, well, that is an underestimate because we can generate more economic value taking into account intermediary services and also cross-sector licensing. So a lot of value is also created in those areas. So in the paper, we list out many activities, including the IP manager scheme, the free consultation service, etc. And we would ask the users whether they are happy with our service. And as pointed out in the paper, a majority of the users are very satisfied with our schemes, and they will continue to patronize the schemes. What I'm asking was a question relating to your achievement in commercialization of IP rights. People may get a patent, a trademark, and so on. How are they going to commercialize that? You said you've been doing fine. How is the achievement like? For BIP Asia, for the licensing show, we are doing a lot of matching activities. So enterprises from different parts of the world and users of IP rights can, in relation to patents, trademarks, copyrights, and so on, can use such IP rights. As for how the government can use such IP rights, we have a number of financial and policy support initiatives. For example, creative industries. We are talking about copyright and design, industrial design, and trademark, and so on and so forth. And through Create Hong Kong, we are providing resources to those in the creative sector, including those engaged in animation, films, etc. We want to help them to expand their business so that they can produce more IP rights. Now, if we have a large enough number of IP rights, then we can commercialize IP rights through different platforms, including the BIP Asia Forum.
What about infringement? Well, recently we conducted a survey and we tried to find out how the public, what the public's views regarding the importance of intellectual property rights protection. And I think the public is more and more aware of the need for such protection. Perhaps I can defer to my colleague to further elaborate. Thank you. Regarding infringement of intellectual property rights online, we do not have such figures offhand, but we can certainly provide the numbers later. The latest trend is that the C&G department have all along been, mapping out strategies to tackle such infringing activities. The Undersecretary gave one example just now. In December 2017, we successfully prosecuted, a consortium which was involved in infringing the rights in relation to desktop machines. A case law was established, and the penalty imposed was imprisonment for 21 to 27 months. And that was really a very hefty penalty. Regarding how the C&G department will, enforce the law and conduct investigation, it has provided, the department was provided with a very strong, weapon to tackle such infringing activities. The C&G department is also now has the technology to investigate into the sale of products which infringe intellectual property rights online. So even if it doesn't enforce the law, at least the criminals would know that the C&G department is very vigilant, and that would certainly deter such infringing activities. As the Undersecretary said, Hong Kong ranks well ahead of many other jurisdictions in terms of the protection of IP. In the international survey found that Hong Kong ranked number 9 in terms of the protection of IP. So our efforts in this area, in terms of law enforcement, and we are actually recognized, very much recognized by the rest of the world. Mr. Chung Kok Pan, I'd like to follow up further on the point regarding the copyright ordinance. The Undersecretary said that all along he has been in communication with the industry. One of the stakeholders would be the netizens. Last time the copyright bill was defeated because there was a strong objection from the netizens. Do you still maintain a dialogue with the netizens now? Of course, it's difficult. Well, there's such a large number of these netizens, and one can't pinpoint any particular person who can represent all the netizens. But if you're not able to know what are the demand or needs of this netizens, you wouldn't be able to implement or or introduce such a bill. As the Undersecretary said, the whole purpose of the copyright system, I think different stakeholders have different views regarding the copyright law. As the Undersecretary said, the demand of the profession, those in the profession and the netizens are different. So we need to, have a consensus before we can move further. At the present stage, we don't see how we can come up with, a package or proposal that will, satisfy all the stakeholders. We've been in touch with different stakeholders, and we're exploring whether there could be any opportunity to, further improve our copyright system. We'll never give up on that. We want to propose an amendment bill to further to provide exemption for those who are visually impaired. At the same time, from the law enforcement angle, we are stepping up our efforts to tackle infringement of intellectual property rights online and to safeguard the legitimate rights of the copyright owners. The Undersecretary said that we need to, have the conducive environment before you can really, propose a copyright bill again? Well, to answer Mr. Chung's question, perhaps I can explain by way of an example. I talk about the Marrakech Treaty, Amendment Treaty. I think we've conducted a consultation and we've also come to this panel to consult members. I think the views have been very positive, and that gave us the opportunity so that we can begin with the less controversial areas to ensure that we can actually become more in line with the international practice. And when the Marrakech Amendment Bill is tabled to this Council, I hope we'll be able to have the support of members. What is most important is that the views of different stakeholders. The question is how we're able to arrive at a consensus. Mr. Chung. Of course, I understand that you should start with the easier, task first. But still, you need to face, the problem, even if it is complex. I don't think that is the right attitude. Mr. Chung would. So if all the Mr. was saying that, when several favorable conditions have been met, then you will come to this Council with a proposal. I think those conditions, as I emphasized early on, is whether or not we can come up with a consensus. But I can assure members that we are not saying that such online infringing activity, we're turning a blind eye to that. The C&E department will tackle such activities, effectively. But other than the amendment of the law, are there other ways by which we can achieve the same, effect? And this is something that we're working hard on. Mr. Chung, our chief executive, when he met with President Xi, the president said that the CE is not afraid of confronting what is difficult. And I think for the copyright ordinance, you're choosing to tackle the easier part first, and that is not compatible with the style of our chief executive. Well, we will continue to monitor the situation, we'll continue to liaise with the stakeholders, and we'll continue to work hard. Mr. Charles Mock, Chairman, I'd like to follow up on the point raised by Mr. Chung. My personal opinion is that it's not a question of when we're going to revive the Copyright Amendment Bill, but rather what we're going to amend. And to some extent, it's not a question whether or not it's an easy task or not, but rather under the present circumstances, we need to know what is best for Hong Kong and what is the latest situation. I think last time the copyright bill was not approved and the government had to withdraw it, and it's been more than 4 years since. With hindsight, it is clear that the netizens did not agree on the subject of use exemption, but in recent years we have seen jurisdictions like the European Union, they are no longer discussing those issues. Those are no longer the most controversial. Instead, even within the profession, half of them belong to the traditional, copyright, views, and they favor, protection by way of sanctions against those who are involved in infringement activities. But there are companies online which would demand for the opening up of copyright so that they can have more room for survival. Recently, in the EU, they are now amending the copyright law, and even in the West, many people in the profession are saying that the laws are too stringent. So the situation is changing fast. I'm not saying that Hong Kong should not do anything, but on the other hand, I don't think we should be too hasty. I think we shouldn't be just saying that the government did not, have the bill passed the last time. They should, do it, again as soon as possible. But perhaps the focus of discussion has shifted now. And what I'd like to know is that even though the bill was defeated the last time, our IP protection efforts and how the question is whether or not the international community is saying that we're not doing well, or that our efforts in tackling IP infringement are slipping. That's not so. So regarding the outline plan for the development of the Greater Bay Area, it is proposed that Hong Kong should leverage on our competitive edge in the legal area, and that Hong Kong should become a platform for IP trading. But in the course of working with the rest of the Bay Area, Greater Bay Area, have you considered whether there are any areas of concern and whether this would result in our ability to protect IP rights in the world being challenged or questioned by the international community, and whether we can convince people that it is safe to do so in Hong Kong? So will there be any impact regarding this outline development plan? And internationally, in the last few years, how have they viewed Hong Kong's, efforts, enforcement against, the infringement of intellectual property rights? Under Secretary, thank you. As I said in my response, we will continue to monitor the situation. We will make reference of the latest development internationally and what has been done in different jurisdictions, and we will also, liaise with our stakeholders in Hong Kong. Regarding copyright and other IP rights and our reputation internationally, I think our reputation has been highly regarded. Regarding the Greater Bay Area, in the latest outline development plan, in Chapter 4 of that plan, it has already highlighted Hong Kong's competitive edge here. It proposes that Hong Kong should leverage on its competitive edge and that we should support Hong Kong as, a regional IP trading hub. So the purpose is that we should promote economic cooperation, one of which is that we should build the Greater Bay Area to become an international, technology and innovation center. The products created in such a center, including patents, would generate economic benefits. Hong Kong being the bridgehead in the area of intellectual property rights protection and our supply of professional talents, I think we have a very good, I think we are very highly regarded internationally. So in this plan, I think we will be able to help business enterprises in the Greater Bay Area to help them develop the business and to, develop new markets. And also that we can, position ourselves to help to build, the development of technology and also the nurturing of professionals. I'll ask the Undersecretary to further elaborate. To answer Mr. Mok's question, I can use the BIP as an example. This forum started to be organized in Hong Kong in 2011. At the end of 2018, we have already held many such fora, but the number of attendants and delegates attending the forum have been steadily increasing. If our IP system were not, recognized internationally, there wouldn't have been so many people coming to Hong Kong to, explore the business opportunities in the area of IP trading. So with the increase in the number of attendants to the BIP forum, I think in 2018 it's already 3 times that of when it was first held. And this clearly shows that the international community really has a very high level of confidence in our efforts to protect IP property rights.
And we have speakers from the WIPO and WTO, and in their speeches, they once again recognized Hong Kong's efforts in protecting IP rights. At the international level, they were saying that Hong Kong has done well in this regard, and that's most convincing. Of course, Hong Kong has a lot of opportunities to cooperate with the GBA, and that is why the BIP was so attractive. A lot of people would like to come to Hong Kong to see whether they can make use of Hong Kong's professional services to make foray into the GBA and other mainland markets, and to tap into business opportunities related to IP rights. So through this activity alone, we can see that the worldwide has great confidence in Hong Kong. And then we also have other activities like the licensing show. The scale of the show is increasing year after year, and that you can see that in terms of our IP rights protection, we have been held in high regard and with great confidence by the international arena. We hope the government can update many of its laws, but then the copyright scenario is changing so fast, so the government must tread prudently. Several years ago, the bill didn't get passed, but then as a result, Hong Kong's reputation has not been tarnished. Now we're talking about integration between Hong Kong and GBA. And I am concerned about whether Hong Kong companies' copies rights will be infringed on in the future in the mainland. This doesn't fall within our work portfolio, but anyway, I hope that you can help Hong Kong companies holding, say, trademarks can be duly protected on the mainland. So can you help these companies? A brief response, please. Thank you, Mr. Mok, for your follow-up question. You talk about Hong Kong companies copyright or patents being infringed upon on the mainland. There are several things that we can do. We have a number of ETOs on the mainland, economic and trade offices, which can provide appropriate service. If Hong Kong companies complain to them about copyright infringement based on the actual circumstances of the case, these can be referred to the mainland authorities. In our paper, we have also set up a dedicated working group together with the mainland authorities, and we can reflect our views to the mainland authorities through this channel. And then the IPD and the mainland authorities have set up a database on IP rights. We can provide information on copyright or IP protection on the mainland, and it is accessible by the public. If your IP rights have been infringed upon on the mainland, the DOJ in 2019 has signed with the mainland authorities in relation to a mutual recognition and mutual assistance agreement, and that covers a lot of a majority of our IP rights, including design and so on and so forth. So through this mechanism, the parties can just raise their request one time only. They don't have to raise them with both the Hong Kong and the mainland authorities. And then I hope that we can promote also the alternative dispute resolution mechanism, including arbitration and mediation. And I hope that the Hong Kong companies can state in their contract that they would like to choose Hong Kong as a place for dispute resolution if any resolution arises, so that they can be properly protected when there are disputes. Okay, so please take heed of the members' views. So that's it for this item. The item number 6, findings of the survey of companies in Hong Kong with parent companies located outside Hong Kong and the startup survey. So can we invite the administration team to join us, please? Those who would like to speak, please press the button. Welcome. The administration team with us today include officials including Mr. Edward Lau, Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Mr. Stephen Phyllis, Director General of Investment Promotion, Mr. Vincent Tang, Associate Director General of Investment Promotion, and then from the CEDB we have the Acting PAS, Mr. Killian Tone. And also from the Invest Hong Kong, we have Mr. Kingston Sun, Head of Market Intelligence. So can I now invite Mr. Yao to walk us through the paper. There are 2 papers. One is provided by the administration. The other is a paper prepared by the Electoral Secretariat. Over to you, Secretary, please. Thank you, Chairman and members. We are coming here today together with the Invest Hong Kong to brief you on the findings of 2 surveys conducted last year. Every year we conduct these surveys, but in the past few years, Hong Kong economy is in the course of transformation, and we are seeing a lot of opportunities emerging. And these 2 surveys reflect the fact that Hong Kong can play a good role in all these. Now, these 2 surveys are to do with parent companies located outside Hong Kong, choosing Hong Kong to set up their presence, and then the other surveys on startups in Hong Kong. Now, in our paper, you can see that, well, in the survey last year, we can see that, well, Hong Kong has all along been an attractive region for setting up regional headquarters, and the number has climbed substantially. Now, the number has increased from 8,225 to 8,754, for a rise of 8.3%. And the rise is 8.3% in relation to the RHQs. Is higher than the overall 6.4%. Now, if we talk about the number of employees, the job, there has been a 9.5% increase. So you can see that a lot of overseas companies are willing to set up regional headquarters in Hong Kong, and they are employing more people. Now, in terms of the country survey, you can see from page 3. Now, mainland ranked first, followed by Japan, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Singapore. As I said in the past, if you look at Japan, well, Japan is close to us, closer to us, and it chose Hong Kong as their regional headquarters. And for 2 years in a row, Japan ranked top, or rather ranked high. And in paragraph 5, we talked about close to 4,000 companies are engaged in import, export, trade, wholesale, and retail. And this goes to show that Hong Kong is a regional headquarter for that kind of business. It is very much a trade center, and then financing and banking comes second, professional business and education services come third. And if you ask them why they are setting up a regional headquarters and local branches in Hong Kong, and the favorable factors included simple tax system and low tax rate, close to 70%, and then followed by free flow of information, and then free port status, and also geographical location and corruption-free government. Negative factors or unfavorable factors, what they are most concerned, whilst remain availability and cost of residential accommodation and availability and cost of business accommodation. The costs are relatively high. This is a fact we acknowledge. Now, we asked them about their plans for the future, whether they will choose to stay, they will expand, or they will close down, only 2%, a very small number, said that they plan to close down their business, and 52% indicated their business plans will remain unchanged, and 21% planned to expand their business in Hong Kong. In other words, over 70% of the respondents are willing to stay in Hong Kong and even plan to expand their business, and only 2% said that they will move out of Hong Kong. Now, for parent companies with overseas headquarters, they would like to have their regional headquarters in Hong Kong. Another survey has to do with the start-ups, and that is very much relevant to the transformation of the economy in Hong Kong. Now, many more startups are being established in Hong Kong, including local startups and also startups from outside. In the Invest Hong Kong's surveys, among the 2,600 startups, around 30% are come from overseas countries. And the reason for choosing Hong Kong may be similar to that cited in the first survey. Now, in terms of figures, in terms of the total number of startups, last year we had a number of 2,625. That's a substantial jump of 18% over 2017, and that is a figure higher than the increase in the number of our regional headquarters. And then in terms of the number of people employed, the increase is 51%. And UK, US, mainland China, Australia, and France, that's the order of the countries for these startups. And in terms of the sector, fintech ranks top, followed by e-commerce, supply chain management, professional consultancy service, information, computer, and technology. And for these sectors are rather evenly distributed in terms of the percentage. So we see that startups face a number of difficulties. Not every startup will succeed in the first time when it's set up. But in the spate of a few years, we see that Hong Kong is an attractive place for setting up startups, and the figures have risen substantially. And they may face, say, operational difficulties like high rentals, etc. But despite this, Hong Kong does have a lot of attraction for these startups to have their presence in Hong Kong. So these two surveys show that despite the uncertainties arising from U.S. Sino trade war and so on, Hong Kong continues to attract overseas companies. And my bureau and other government departments, as well as Invest Hong Kong, will continue to do our best to attract enterprises to come to Hong Kong. So much for my briefing, and my team are more than happy to answer members' questions. Thank you, Mr. Yao. Now, 3 members have indicated their wish to speak. Mr. Alvin Yao, each will be given 5 minutes. Thank you. Secretary, in paragraph 6, that is on the favorable factors identified by overseas companies. Secretary, do you have the figures for last year? I would like to know the changes between last year and this year. Now, for the several factors cited, low tax rate, free flow of information, free port status, we have slashed tax last year. Now, for the last year's, the previous survey, how is the figure like? I mean, are there other factors which are attractive to them?
I'll ask my colleague whether they have such information. I think my impression as that of the director is that there had not been any major changes. Mr. Sun. Thank you, Chairman. Last year, we conducted the same survey and we found that regarding the tax rate, simple tax system and low tax rate, that was the top favorable factor. We had three, so we have actually three options: favorable, neutral, not favorable. In 2017, the 70% said it's favorable, 16 were neutral, less than 0.5% said that that it was not favorable. Now, for the other items, say for example, for taxation is 67. Last year it was 72. So after we've reduced the tax rate, the number has dropped. I would like to have such numbers so that we can have a more meaningful discussion with the Secretary as to whether we can further improve our strategy of promotion. So we have, first of all, the tax system, and secondly, free flow of information. The number is 66%. Free port status, last year it was 63%. The fourth factor, geographical location, it was 63% last year. And finally, corruption-free government, the number for last year was 60%. So I'd like to also say that, well, it seems that those who gave a response of favorable had dropped a little bit, but the number choosing unfavorable was also very low. They were basically less than 1%. I'm not trying to really, make a detailed comparison, but these numbers do reflect, where we have a competitive edge. Since the director is here, I'd like to ask the director whether you've considered the studies in promoting Hong Kong, say for example, as a free port. In the last few months, we've been emphasizing our status as an independent custom area. So what strategy would the department have in respect of these few areas which we can on which we can further step up our promotion efforts? Director.
In terms of all of the favourable factors that are listed here, they're very much a core part of the proposition when we're talking to prospective investors around the world. So typically when we're going out to pitch Hong Kong, we'll talk about the macro environment, we'll talk about these very favourable business environment factors, Hong Kong under one country, two systems, favourable tax regime, business-friendly government, advantageous geographic location, free port status, and then we'll drill into more detail sector by sector depending upon the individual company. So all of these macro factors are part of the big picture story to begin with, but we rapidly get into the detail which is of more interest to the company, which is about the size of the market for the individual business.
主席，我時間唔多啦，不過我估今日人唔多，我應該可以。
Well, I think I can, have more time because you don't have many members. Now, regarding how we promote Hong Kong externally, given that our major competitor is Singapore, and they have a very focused approach, I understand that Invest Hong Kong may not be adopting the same strategy, but has the department considered whether this is the most effective approach? Well, I think, Mr. Yao, I think we've actually, made the same point before. Different jurisdictions may attract overseas investors in different ways. A member asked, whether there have been any changes in the favorable factors, last year compared with this year. Now, if you take taxation, for example, last year we reduced our tax rate, but the impact will only be felt in a subsequent year. And also many business firms may not need to pay tax in Hong Kong, but the low tax rate is ranked the highest as the favorable factor. And Hong Kong is different from other jurisdictions. In some other neighboring countries and cities, they will focus on individual companies and give them a time-limited tax concession, say over a period of 5 years, and they may not offer the same tax reduction to other companies. In Hong Kong, we don't choose to take that route. Another example will be our free port status. Why is it that we are able to have a very high rating given by international think tanks? Now, when we cut our tax last year, we lowered the profit tax for the first $2 million down to 8.5%. We are already one of the lowest in the world, and it is applied across the board. So that's the main point, which we'll continue to promote. And because we're not, just picking a single company to do that, but when our colleagues try to attract foreign investors coming to Hong Kong, we will also take into consideration the circumstances of the company concerned. For example, we can help them explore how they can register in Hong Kong. We can help the people, to move to Hong Kong and so on. But in terms of the favorable economic factors, for example, in terms of the tax rate, we can only adopt a uniform approach across the board. Mr. Charles Mok. First of all, I'd like to thank the Secretary and Invest Hong Kong for conducting such surveys every year so that we can actually, take the pulse for the Hong Kong economy. And I would agree with some of the points made by the Secretary. But on the other hand, I think we should also be mindful of what risks are forthcoming. For example, looking at the number of, which are the countries from which the companies are planning to set up headquarters in Hong Kong, I think mainland China ranks #1, and that's a good thing. But sometimes I would also think that compared with our competitors, are we over-reliant on a single area or country? So I'd like to know whether you're aware that, for example, our competitor, Singapore, have they embarked on have they carried out similar surveys, and whether they have similar numbers so that we can make a comparison, and then we may be able to do better in terms of attracting mainland companies to come to Hong Kong. But in respect of companies from other countries, are we doing better or worse compared with our competitors? I wonder whether we can have such information. The Secretary also talked about these companies, what are the favorable factors identified by these companies. They also pointed out that there are certain unfavorable factors. I'm not going to debate with you about on the factors about expensive brands, supply of accommodation, availability of international schools. All these are issues. But after you've carried out this survey, I don't think you have details regarding those areas. Could you give us more details regarding those favorable and unfavorable factors and the rankings? I wonder whether we could be given a detailed table. The chairman also asked about how how the findings this year compare with last year and those of previous years. I think such information may be useful reference for companies planning to come to Hong Kong as well. For startups, I note that in recent years, with the support of the SAR government, many companies have been established in Hong Kong. Many of them come from overseas. But in the outline development plan for the GBA, the administration is encouraging young people to go to the mainland. So in future, for the authorities in the 9 cities plus Hong Kong and Macau, are they going to all work in the same direction? And also, how can we ensure that Hong Kong will continue to be a major center for startups? Will Invest Hong Kong attract more startups from abroad, and Hong Kong people instead should should go and actually establish startups in the mainland? Shouldn't the CE tell the mainland authorities to encourage more mainland startups to come to Hong Kong? Regarding the position of the startups in the entire GBA, so the authorities is now encouraging more young people to go to the GBA, and they're telling us that most of the capital, there's abundant capital in the GBA. That's not really true. In Hong Kong, we also have plenty of capital. So how is it that Hong Kong will really be, a favorable place for startups in to be established here? Regarding regional headquarters, I think the most important point is that we need to find out whether the numbers is going up or down, and in fact the number is going up, and these are very positive numbers. There's an increase in 0.4, regional headquarters 8.3. Mr. Mok asked whether the mainland will actually squeeze out other startups from other companies. No, that's not really that. I was just saying that whether it's a bit too lopsided. The table in paragraph 3 and 4 are important. Mainland companies choosing to set up regional headquarters in Hong Kong. Indeed, the number has been increasing. Very often it has to do with the coming to Hong Kong to seek listing and to raise funds. Last year, and I think for 6 consecutive years, Hong Kong ranks first in the world in terms of the amount of capital raised. I'm sure that is a relevant factor. Take the example of Japan. I think actually the distance between Tokyo and Beijing and Shanghai is even shorter than that of Tokyo to Hong Kong. So I think we should not just look at China but also Hong Kong vis-a-vis the ASEAN region. I think companies from the other side of the Pacific, they also like to come to set up headquarters in Hong Kong. So it's not, the numbers are not lopsided. So if you're worried that all these companies are from the mainland, although the mainland companies rank first, but they do take up a smaller share. And we also tend to, compare those factors year on year. Now, regarding the GBA, I don't see how the development plan for the GBA only encourages us to go to the Greater Bay Area. I think Hong Kong's and the GBA, I think, should complement each other. In the outline development document, there's a lot of coverage, focusing on several main, points. Other than the innovation and center, it also emphasized a lot about the one country, two system. To answer Mr. Mok's question regarding startups and the competitive advantages of the Greater Bay Area, and the attraction of GBA for startups. I think startups from the mainland and from other countries, they may have different considerations when they choose the location to establish their startups. I think it depends on the industry concerned. Ranking number 1 will be financial technology. That has to do with Hong Kong being a financial center. I think startups in the fintech industry is also very popular in Hong Kong.
And then we talk about the cooperation between Hong Kong and mainland. Well, people have different reasons for picking Hong Kong vis-a-vis mainland. People may pick Hong Kong because of one country, two systems. For others, they choose mainland because of their advantages in producing prototypes and so on. So these are the comparative advantages of the two places. Now, in relation to paragraphs 6 and 7, can more detailed information be given? Can detailed tables be given? Yes, we can do that after we've gone back. Next one, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. Well, the survey results, the surveys are good so that we can better grasp the overall situation here. And I hope that more details can be given. In this paper, we talk about companies coming to Hong Kong. And then we talk about regional headquarters, regional offices, and local offices, and the number. This is the categorization. Regional headquarters, would have a greater impact than the regional offices. That is indisputable. I think the categorization is quite meaningful, and I hope that more detailed categorization can be made in the future too. And we see the breakdowns of the different types of companies or the offices, RHQs, ROs, LOs, and I hope that further breakdowns be provided. Now, we talk about innovation and technology all the time these days. If an INT company sends set up a R&D center or a sales office or a regional headquarters here, that carries with them different meanings. So can more detailed classes be used? You may ask, why am I asking for that? Well, we have devoted a lot of resources into INT development and helping startups. I hope that we can get more data, more objective data, so that we can gauge the effectiveness of our work. So that can help us make observations on our efforts. When we discuss innovation and technology, well, in terms of the classification of the different businesses here, so what are these sectors that are related to INT? Is it information, computer and technology, or health and medical, or what? From the table, there's no way that I can see how these sectors are related to our work in INT. The classification is not detailed enough. in that regard. So can the Secretary, can you use more detailed classification so that we can actually assess the trend and gauge the effectiveness of our work? In relation to favorable factors and unfavorable factors, the international community has always been asking about the situation of rule of law in Hong Kong. Is it being challenged? In different surveys, we always see that Hong Kong is branded as a free economy. And then there has been a slippage in the ranking of in terms of our rule of law and press freedom. So how does that slippage affect companies, overseas companies, in making their decisions on whether to come to Hong Kong or not? Several questions from me. So can I ask the Deputy Secretary, the Director General?
Mr. Wu, in terms of the subcategories of regional headquarters, regional offices and local offices, in the detailed survey, there's much more data available, and that's published on the CNSD website, and we'd be very happy to share that detailed data with you. To address Mr. Mott's question, we do not believe any other jurisdiction globally issued such a detailed survey as the regional headquarters survey. So Hong Kong is very unique already in providing so much information. Most jurisdictions just provide some very headline figures. In terms of the makeup of the startups, I think members should have been provided with a further flyer in your packs, and on the back page of that, actually there's a more detailed breakdown by subsector where the companies are coming from, including biotech and so forth. So it gives a better flavour rather than the broad brush sectors mentioned in the report presented to you. So that there is more information available, and we're happy to share that. I think I'll probably leave it at that for the moment.
邱局長。
Mr. Wu talked about the ranking. Number one, the government will pay attention to the rankings prepared by the think tanks and academic institutions. I believe enterprises will also pay attention to that. But as to exactly why companies choose to come to Hong Kong, I mean, there are a lot more factors that they will take on board. But from our survey, as pointed out in our paper, the reasons are similar to what we've been thinking. First is, of course, is the cost, the tax to be paid, in other words, and also other costs in relation to accommodation and office rentals, etc. Now, overall speaking, Hong Kong is a very costly city, so to speak. But because of our simple tax system and our low tax rate, we have still proved to be very attractive. And that is also the number one factor for companies coming to Hong Kong. And of course, there are other factors, including free port status and corruption-free situation and so on. The Heritage Foundation of the U.S. in the past 25 years has ranked Hong Kong first in terms of our open economy. And then for Fraser Institute, in the past decade, Hong Kong has been ranked top as well. And for the Lausanne Management Institute, in 2016-17, we ranked first, and in 18, we dropped one place. So there's been some fluctuation. And for the World Bank ranking, in terms of our ease of doing business report in 17-18, and then from 19, we have risen back from the 5th place to the 4th place. And for the tax report, we also rank first worldwide and also first in Asia. And then in a UK finance index, and we rank third worldwide and first in Asia. So overall speaking, our business environment in Hong Kong is very positive and encouraging. But we can never be sure that we can stay that way all the time. Now, different places will come up with tax concessions to compete against other countries, and we are also affected by geopolitical situations and so on and so forth. But every time when we look at these reports, we would look at the merits of Hong Kong and also the challenges that Hong Kong is facing. We will pay close attention to that, and we will reflect upon ourselves. Now, if there is misunderstanding anywhere in the in such reports, we will try to clarify, and then we will try to explain things to overseas bodies. Mr. Wu. Well, I asked a question about innovation and technology work, and how can we try to gauge the effectiveness of our work in the figures you present. It seems that 5% is related, but the secretary has shaken his head. But should there be a different kind of classification here to show the effectiveness of our INT work? Because we've been telling the society all the time that we should head towards the development of INT. So we hope that overseas companies can come to, especially INT companies, can come to Hong Kong to set up their R&D centers and other local offices as well.
It's the question of the focus on innovation and technology. If you look actually at the results of the regional headquarters survey, you'll see that most of the sectors there are very focused on Hong Kong's traditional pillar strengths. The startup survey is beginning to show that the companies are coming much more from innovative sectors. It's fair to say that the overall innovation agenda is still very young, but I think the startup survey is beginning to show perhaps that the makeup of the economy is beginning to change, and the survey has utility to that extent. We want to build upon that so we have a much better understanding of what's going on. Because equally, these surveys are very important marketing tools for us as we talk to companies globally. So we really want the surveys to be telling the story to convince companies to come here. Perhaps I could also supplement on the question of rankings. Rankings and those favourable factors that we spoke about earlier are very important as a big picture narrative. But I think I'd also like to clarify that most of the work that we do at Invest Hong Kong is very, very focused on individual businesses. So we drill down into their particular requirements. We're talking about the market opportunity for them, what it means to them in Hong Kong, what it might mean in China, what it might mean in ASEAN. So our propositions are much, much more detailed than those macro factors. That's just the starting point of a conversation. Our propositions, our pitch books, really go into a lot of detail tailored to individual companies.
主席，或者我再補充一下咧，就胡小偉。
Mr. Wu, well, actually, you can find your answer in this particular pamphlet, as pointed out by Stephen, for the second survey on startup. Most of the startups are related to INT. Why did I say so? If you look at the pie chart at the back of this page, we've listed 10 or so sectors here. These are exactly INT sectors. Fintech, the one with the largest share, so that's Fintech, INT. E-commerce supply chain management, INT again. And then professional services. Our survey was conducted among co-working spaces, incubators, and accelerators. So they emphasized applying technology. And that also cover information, computer, and technology, data, analytics, hardware, IoT, Internet of Things, 5G arising, IoT arising from 5G, smart city, biotechnology, robotics, food tech, and social innovation, so on and so forth. the 2,000 or so startup companies are actually in the INT sector. So in the second survey, we can gauge the attraction of Hong Kong in relation to have a developing INT in Hong Kong. Now it's my turn. We have a number of favorable factors including a simple tax system, free flow of information, corruption-free government, free port status, etc. So a number of companies are establishing their regional headquarters in Hong Kong. We're seeing a number of startups in Hong Kong as well.
We are at the southern tip of China. We enjoy many competitive advantages. Have you ever conducted a study about these overseas startups that they've come to Hong Kong because of the mainland factor? Also, for mainland businesses, they also rank first in terms of setting up shop in Hong Kong. They come here because we have the international perspective. They want to use Hong Kong as a springboard to help them go overseas. Have you also conducted a detailed study in those areas?
In terms of international startups, the vast majority of them, their long-term ambition is to penetrate the mainland market. Hong Kong is a very good test bed for their product or service in a Chinese-speaking environment, but they're looking for the scale of the opportunity in the mainland, unquestionably. And that would be the case for probably 90% of the companies. And likewise, with mainland companies, they use Hong Kong for their internationalisation. And we're seeing a whole wave of new companies from across China, from second, third, fourth tier cities, looking to use Hong Kong as that first step to international markets. So Hong Kong continues to play that vital role, both in and out, for both sets of companies.
Do
you have such figure? Have you any findings of studies of Mr. Sun? In our annual survey regarding number of companies setting up regional headquarters and offices in Hong Kong, and what are the favorable factors that they consider, one of which is the business opportunities in the mainland. Where these companies told us that they're giving a 52% regarding the importance of this factor. How about Hong Kong being a springboard to help mainland companies going abroad? I don't think we've covered that in our survey, because Hong Kong indeed has a very unique status. And I think we really, it should deserve a study. Well, the questions we choose to ask in the survey. Every year we would ask similar questions. What is interesting is that regarding the ratings, the mainland factor alone, the rating is not as high as the 4 or 5 items we pointed out earlier. But if it's 40 to 50, it would mean that it is a significant factor. Chairman, you're also right. More and more companies, startups included, they all have the eyes, other than Hong Kong, and it's not just the mainland. When we go on overseas visits, we would invite startups to come with us. 10 startups went with us to Beijing. We also went to Southeast Asia, and in March we're going to Europe. There are startups which will join our visit. For these startups, they are interested in the external market because the application of the technologies should. They would like to. They have the eye set on a larger market. 2 years ago, we signed the free trade agreement with the ASEAN countries, and we saw that in the Science and Technology Park, the startups there, some of the startups there, maybe they've seen, now that we have this free trade agreement, they are beginning to set up, branches or branch offices in Southeast Asia. So we've seen that happening. Yeah. My second question as you said in the paper, is that it's very difficult to open a bank account in Hong Kong, especially for startups. Have you provided any assistance so that it's easier for them to open bank accounts in Hong Kong?
With the banking community and have a number of contacts directly with banks where we'll refer companies to them. We also work very closely with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, which has a dedicated section on its website about the process of opening a bank account in Hong Kong. And in the most problematic cases, we have worked with Hong Kong Monetary Authority where a company has wanted to raise the issue to speed things along with the banks. Generally speaking, we think the situation is improving. We get less inquiries on the issue, but it still is a challenge reported, as you say, particularly by startups and particularly by fintech companies.
好，希望你哋繼續提供協助啦。
You will continue to provide them with the necessary assistance. Next, Mr. Siu Ka-fai. Thank you. We are talking about overseas companies whose headquarters are located abroad, and they may have regional offices or headquarters in Hong Kong. Looking at the numbers, one can see that in the last few years, the number has been increasing, and this is good news for the business community. Although the global economic climate is not doing so well, and we have the trade war between the US and China, but the numbers show that the business enterprises overseas have confidence in Hong Kong. Otherwise, they wouldn't have established headquarters or offices in Hong Kong. I think our colleagues in the ETO also have made a contribution, and I hope they will keep up with the good work. Other than the growing numbers, I see that other than mainland companies, there are 15,000 odd coming from the mainland, followed by Japan, and then 1,300 from US. Ranking fourth is the UK. Among those companies, for the first 10, other than those from Japan and Taiwan, but there's more of them. But what about the Asian countries? Can we put in some extra effort to attract more companies from those countries to come to Hong Kong? Because this is also the policy of the mainland. Could we attract more companies from those countries to set up headquarters or regional offices here? And secondly, in para 5, regarding import export and so on, is 3,000 something, banking 1,800 something. So there seems that companies involved in import export tend to have more confidence in Hong Kong, and also they see Hong Kong as a springboard to help them go into the mainland market. So there are more such companies. For the other industries, I think we can also, especially for companies involved in R&D, I think in the Greater Bay Area, I'm sure the national government is, I think given that for traditional industries which are labor intensive, I don't think we have as much competitive advantage. So I'd like to ask whether the Bureau has any plans to promote the development of innovative technology. Thank you, Mr. Xi. I agree that looking at this chart, it is obvious that regional headquarters and regional offices of these companies, they tend to come from the same countries such as the mainland, the US, and so on. But recently, ASEAN has become our second largest trading partner. I agree with Mr. Hsu that the ASEAN region is a very attractive market, and that's why next week we will be setting up our third office in Bangkok to step up our efforts, promotion efforts. And after signing the free trade agreement, we will, conduct more promotion there. I hope that we can convince them to use Hong Kong as a springboard. Mr. Hsu said that the first survey we tend to focus more on import, export, wholesale, and retail. For many of these major companies, Hong Kong is where the the regional and global procurements are conducted. As for the startups, they really are new companies. So we're talking about new and emerging industries. They tend to be very small in scale, maybe a few partners only working in a small office. And if you refer to paragraph 12, you'll find that they are more evenly spread out. So this shows that our economy is in transformation. For the traditional industries, they have their role, but with startups, and whether it's traditional industries and startups, if they're interested in coming to Hong Kong, we hope that we can actually, increase the pie. And that's why ETOs and so on abroad, we also, working hard to promote Hong Kong. Thank you. Looking at the numbers, Chairman, regarding the number of employees, the staff hired by these, foreign companies, the growth has been substantial. In the last 17, it was a 9.5% increase, and the number is 480,000 people employed. So they also make up a very large. They carry. So I'd like to know about the R&D work by these companies, and it's not just the startups. For some of the more well-established companies, they also have their own R&D, except that in the past we didn't offer them any tax concessions, and they didn't need to make any declarations. Or now that we have a new policy, a new initiative, we are indeed offering, concrete tax concessions, tax reduction for the first $2 million of profit, and so on. I hope that in future, given that we have such, concessions, I'm sure some of these companies will, claim deductions in respect of such, expenses. So I think if we have such data, we will be better understand the R&D work done by these companies, and also how we can further, help them.
Agree that working with the larger companies already in Hong Kong to encourage them to do more in R&D is really important. And we've got a very targeted approach to working with all of the major innovative companies in Hong Kong, where we're highlighting the new opportunities. And we're also targeting major companies globally who aren't in Hong Kong as well. So that's ongoing work as part of our aftercare process. At the moment, we don't have definitive data on it, but hopefully that will flow from the work that we're undertaking.
好，
呢一方面咧，我
I hope that the government will definitely step up the liaison with these companies to find out what they need and to find out how they can contribute not only to the Hong Kong economy, but in terms of the nurturing of talent, we can work with them. Thank you. I think with that we can wrap up our discussion on this item. And if there's no other business, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.